Deputy Executive Director and General Counsel for the State of Florida Commission on Ethics. I'm going to be talking with you today about how to electronically file Form 6, which is the full and public disclosure of financial interests. If you're watching this video, it's because you have either you are a Form 6 filer with a filing requirement, or you are qualifying as a candidate for a Form 6 position and you need to fill out the form. We're going to discuss with you not only how to navigate to the form, but how to obtain instructions to fill out the form, how to fill out the form itself, some tips for making proper disclosures, and discussing all 5 methods for filling out the form. In order to get started, we need to navigate to the system. There is a web link that you will enter into your browser. For that, it's disclosure.floridaethics.gov. Again, disclosure.floridaethics.gov. Once you've entered that link into your browser, it will take you to this web page. This is the web page for the Electronic Financial Disclosure Management System. And as you can see here, right in the beginning of the page is information about how to log into the system. You can log in as a filer or as a candidate. And additionally, there are instructions at the bottom of the page. Instructions for the Form 6X, 6, 6F, the Form 1, 1X, 1F, and the Form 2. All of those can be filed using our system. I'm going to click on the Form 6 instructions. The Form 6 instructions, when you click on it, it pops up with this page. These are the instructions for the Form 6. These include a description of who must file Form 6, and then the individual sections of the form, including the net worth section, the assets section, the liability section, and so on. You can print these instructions and then have them next to you as you're filling out the form. Now that we've seen the instructions, I'm going to go back to the main page. We're on the main page for the Electronic Financial Disclosure Management System. For those of you who are candidates, if you are a candidate who is attempting to fill out the Form 6, you would log in by clicking on this button here that says, I am a candidate. Again, this is only for non-incumbent candidates. This will allow you to fill out the form and print the form for filing it with your qualifying officer. As if you log in as a candidate, you won't be able to file the form with the Commission on Ethics, because the Commission on Ethics would not be the proper repository for the filing of the form. It must be filed with your qualifying officer. However, and let's click on that now just to see what that looks like. When you log in, it'll prompt you with this page when you click on the I am a candidate page. Clicking on this button here will give you prompts to get your registration key, and then once you are registered, then you'll be able to log in right here using the candidate login portal. Let's go back though. So we're on the main page now for the Electronic Financial Disclosure Management System, and let's log in as a filer. To log in as a filer, that would mean that you are either already a Form 6 filer, or you're a Form 1 filer who is attempting to qualify for a Form 6 position. In either event, you would click on this link that says, I am a filer. When you click on that, you come to this page here. You'll be emailed your registration code sometime in April, and that will allow you to register, and you can follow the directions in that email for registering and obtaining login information, which you would enter on the right side of this screen. However, if you're attempting to access the Electronic Financial Disclosure System before that email comes to you in April, and you need to register, you can click this button right here that says Request Registration Email. When you do that, you'll be prompted to enter your email address to get a registration code. When you enter your email address, it will check that email address against the email that we have on our system that was provided to us by your financial disclosure coordinator for your agency. If the email you provide matches the one we have on the system, then you'll be sent a registration code to register and obtain login information. If the emails do not match, then you'll need to contact your financial disclosure coordinator to change your email in our system so that you can then attempt the process again to get the login information. Once you're properly registered, then you can log into the system. We're going to log in right now, entering our data on the right side of the screen. When we log in, we'll be prompted with this notification here. And once we've read the notice, then we can click OK. And that will take us to our filer dashboard. This is your home base for the Financial Disclosure Management System. This will list all the things that you need to do, and it'll list all the forms that are available to you. If you're logging in early, this area right here where it lists that I have a Form 6 that needs to be filled out, right in the middle here where it says File Form 2023 Full and Public Disclosure of Financial Interest Form 6. If that is blank, that's because you've logged in early, which is great. And you'll need to navigate using other prompts there. You'll need to navigate to the Form 6 option to select that a Form 6 is what you want to file. You can see here that there are other things that help you to get information about the Form 6. First and foremost, there's a link here for the instructions. When you click on that, it takes you again back to the 2023 Form 6 instructions, and all the instructions here are available for you. Additionally, the page in the top right corner has a link for FAQ. When you click on the link for FAQ, a search bar comes up with all the Form 6 and account-related frequently asked questions that we might get. So you can browse these by clicking on this, and it has different questions here available for you. Or you could search. So for example, if we wanted to search for how to disclose a vehicle lease, we would type that in, hit enter, and then you can see on the left side here, there's one question under assets that comes up for being responsive for the vehicle lease search. When we click on that, it tells us what reporting obligations do I have concerning a vehicle lease. When you click on that, it comes up with the answer here, and it tells you how to do that. You might also have a question about who is your coordinator, and you might type in coordinator. And when you click on that, again on the left side, it says that there are two questions about coordinators, and you can click on the question that says, who is my coordinator? And you can follow the answer here to get that information. So the FAQs are a very good tool for getting answers to the questions that you might have. Let's go back to the dashboard now now that we've explored the frequently asked questions area. We're back at the dashboard, and there are some quick links on the right side that are also helpful for us to look at. First and foremost, we have the forms and filing information area. When we click on that, it gives us information about all the forms that are available at the Commission on Ethics. The top half of this page identifies forms that are electronic forms that can be filed electronically using the Electronic Financial Disclosure Management System, such as the Form 6, the Form 6X, the Form 6F, the Form 1, etc. You can see here as we scroll down that there are other forms that are available. These are the paper forms that the Commission has access to. These are for example, the JQC Form 6A is available here, and then also the voting conflict forms, Form 8A and 8B. The gift form, Form 9, is also available here, etc. And you can scroll through to see the other forms. When we click back, we end up back at the filer dashboard. Next, we're going to look at the public records exemption request. If you have a public records exemption available to you, if there's an exemption in the law available to you to keep certain things that you might enter on the form, to keep those confidential and exempt from public records, then you can file an exemption request with us. To do that, you would click on this link to pull up the records request document. And as you can see, that's loading up on my page now. This is a form that you would need to fill out. You would select what reason what is the reason for your exemption under the public records law. For example, if you were certified firefighter that was available, that had certain exemptions available, you would check the box for that, and then you would say, yes, I qualify, and then you would sign the document and have your signature notarized. You would need to send in the paper form back to us. We need the form with the original signature in order to effectuate your exemption from the public records. But we'll keep that on record, and we'll note it, and then we will be able to make certain redactions to your form when you file your form. We're now going to go back to the page, to the dashboard, and the last document that we're going to look at here under the quick links is the request for filing extension. If you cannot file timely your financial disclosure form, then you may need to fill out a request for filing extension. To do that, you click on the link and you'll be prompted with this page. This page, you would fill this page out to get to request your extension. You would select which form year you are requesting the extension for and the form type. So for example, if you're a Form 6 filer filing a Form 6, you would fill out the Form 6 right here, and then you would type in a justification. If you had additional documentation, you could scan that or type that up and then drag those files into this area where it would upload those documents, and then you would click the request button in the bottom right corner of the page. Once you've done that, then the Commission will have received your request for an extension, and we will begin processing it, and we will reach out to you to let you know the result. Now that we're back at the dashboard here, we're able to look at our Form 6 filing. So to get started with the Form 6, we're going to click on the link for Form 6 right here in the middle of the page to get started. As you can see here on the right, it says we have not yet started the form. So we're going to get started right now by clicking on the link. When we log in, when we click on the form and access the form, we are prompted with these notifications here. These notifications let us know that we have 5 options for completing the disclosure form. We can manually type in the information. We can import the data by clicking a button to load the prior year data. If you've manually entered your financial disclosure information in a previous year, the system can access that information and import that into your current year form. You can also have a CPA or attorney complete the form for you. You have the ability to enter their email address and have them log into the form to enter your financial disclosure information into the form. If you do that, you'll need to check their information when they are done, and then make sure that you are clicking submit to submit the information. You can import the data for your financial disclosure form using a CSV spreadsheet. CSV is a file extension for certain spreadsheets. You can save a spreadsheet as a CSV in Microsoft Excel and other spreadsheet programs. When you do this, you can put information in 2 columns or multiple columns depending upon which section of the form you're using, and then upload that information. We're going to do that later in this video to take you through how to do that, but there's also a separate video that you can click on. You can click a link for to access to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you where that link is for that video when we see it. Lastly, you can upload a PDF for any section of the form. You can upload documents to append to the Form 6, and all you would need to do is scan whatever documents you have, save them as a PDF, and you will be prompted to upload those if you check a box at any point during your filling out of the form. I'll show you how to do that during this video. All right, with that, we are able to start filing now, so we'll click on the green button to start filing. All right, the first section of the form that we're prompted with is the general information area. You can see that we're in the general information area because in the bar going across with the different sections of the form, general information is bolded and underlined in blue. We are able to access other sections of the form and skip around by clicking on this bar. So if we wanted to go to the income section, we could just click right here and then we'd be able to skip to the income section. While we're in the general information area, I want to show you what options you have available to you. First and foremost, you can edit your name if your name is not correct in the system. So for example, if you wanted to change your name, you could just data enter that right here. You can also update your address in the system by editing the address fields if you need to. And then lastly, you can edit your email address. Again, it's very important that you keep an up-to-date email address with the Commission on Ethics so that we can send you notifications and keep you up to date on your financial disclosure filing requirements. To update your email address, you would just make the change here. When you enter all this data, this would just update your information for the current form that you're filling out. If you want these changes to be logged for your entire profile and for all of your forms going forward, to do that you would click Update My User Profile. When you check that box, the changes that you're making would go across for all of the form and for all forms that you fill out and in your profile. When you do that, you'll select the reason for the change, and then you can click Save, and that would save your information. We're going to go on to the next page of the form here. So when we click Next, it takes us to this page, which again is part of the general information area. It's asking us, are you a candidate? If you are a candidate, or if you're filling out this form because you're qualifying for office, then you will check this box to indicate that you are indeed running for office. This notification will come up and you'll click OK. What it's looking for is some general information about the position that you're seeking for elected office. You'll select the election position, so we'll select one here. And then it'll ask for the election date, and we will indicate the election date right here. There we go. And then it will ask us for the agency name. And then the position sought. Once you've done all that, then you click Next. And now we're into the form. So the first section of the form to fill out is the net worth section of the form. You can see here that we are being prompted with reporting our net worth as of December 31, 2023, or a more recent date. On Form 6, you're required to disclose your net worth, and you'll be doing that as of December 31 or the more recent date. And it's up to you what date you pick. The date that you pick you'll be using for not only for this section, the net worth section, but for the next two sections as well, assets and liabilities. For our purposes, we're going to be disclosing our net worth, assets, and liabilities in this video as a snapshot of December 31, 2023. So that we're going to leave that date there, and then we're going to click Next. Now that we've selected a date, it's going to ask us whether we want to, how we want to, it's going to ask us about selecting a net worth. People tend to make a mistake here. The mistake that they make is they skip ahead. They see that that Part B is going to be assets, Part C is liabilities, so they add up all of their disclosed assets, subtract from that all of their disclosed liabilities, and then they put that number down as their net worth. And for most people, that's not going to be correct, because what the net worth section is requiring is that you total all of your assets minus all of your liabilities. Periodically on the form, you're going to see a red link that you can hover over to get more information about what that term means. In this case, when we hover over all of your assets, it makes clear that it's not just your disclosed assets that need to be going into your net worth calculation. And when we hover over all your liabilities, it makes clear that it's not all of your just your disclosed liabilities, but all of your liabilities. When you get to the liability section, for example, you're going to see that credit card debt is one of the things that would not be disclosed as a liability. It's exempted from disclosure. But it will factor into the calculation that you make for your net worth. So even though you're not disclosing it, you will factor that into the math that you to arrive at your net worth number. Once you've calculated all of your assets and all of your liabilities and arrived at an accurate net worth number, then you will enter it into this box here. So we're going to enter a number now. Once you've entered a number, then you can click Next and it will save that data. We're now in the Assets section of the form. You know, it's important to note that at the top of each section of the form, you can always print the entire form. This will allow you to see what the prompts are for each section of the form. Some people prefer to have a copy of the form with them as they're filling out the form so that they know what documents to go and gather. At any point in time, you can always go to the top here on the top right and click Print Form to print a copy of the form. The other thing that's worth noting, at any point in time, once you've either filled out as much as you want to fill out, or as you're getting started with the form, before you even fill out anything, if you desire to send the form to your CPA or attorney to have them fill out the form, you can do that at any time by clicking Share with a CPA or attorney. That's the button in the top left corner here. When you do that, you'll be prompted to enter your CPA or attorney's information, including their email address, and they'll be prompted with they'll receive an email where they'll be prompted to obtain login credentials to access your form, and then they'll be filling out your form. While they're doing that, your form will be in a read-only status for you. You won't be able to write to it. When the CPA or attorney is done filling out the form, they will send the form back, and you will have access to review it, again, as a read-only. And once you've reviewed the information, then you can click Submit to submit the form. All right, we're in the Assets section of the form again, and there is a prompt here that we're looking at for disclosing our assets, but the first thing that we have to disclose is what's called our household goods and personal effects. If you're new to Form 6 and you don't know what the household goods and personal effects are, you see that there's a red link here and you can hover over it to get more information about it. Household goods and personal effects are essentially the things that you collect over a lifetime, the things that fill up your house. This is going to be your furniture, your appliances, your gun collection, your coin collection, your stamp collection, your vehicles for personal use, just the things in your house. You're going to aggregate the value of all those things together, and because most people don't know the value of their dishwasher or the value of their couch, you're going to essentially be making a good faith estimate as to what the aggregate value of all of those things are. If that number comes to more than $1,000, then you have a disclosure to make. So we're going to click Yes, that the value of our household goods and personal effects is more than $1,000. And then it will prompt us to enter a number for that value. So making a good faith estimate for our household goods and personal effects here, we are going to type in a number. And we are going to submit that by clicking Next. That will take us to making disclosures. It's prompting us now to make disclosures about real property. In Form 6, you will be disclosing every asset that you have that is worth more than $1,000. This is going to be real property. This is going to be intangible assets, even tangible assets. Anything that you have that is worth more than $1,000 will be disclosed on the form. So it's asking us some questions here to prompt us to think about our real property holdings. And it's asking whether or not we have an interest in one or more pieces of real property exceeding $1,000. So let's click Yes so we can see what that part of the form looks like. When we click Yes, we are prompted with this screen here. This screen is, you can see it's a chart with two columns. The first column is description of the asset, And when we hover over that red link there, it gives us a little bit more information about how to disclose a real property, how to describe it. What we're looking for a description of real property is any description that will allow somebody to read the form and then locate the property. Usually that information is going to be a street address, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be a parcel number or a plat number or longitude, latitude, or any other information that would allow somebody to find the piece of real property. Most people put the full street address. The second column here is value of the asset. When you hover over that, it provides you additional information to let you know that what the form is looking for here is the market value for tax purposes, unless a more accurate or fair market value is available. So we're going to enter a piece of real property here just for our purposes. We're going to enter something at 123 Real Property Lane in Tallahassee. And then we're going to provide a value for that property. Once we've entered the first piece of real property here, if we need to enter additional properties, we can click the green button on the bottom right side. That is to add an item. That will add a row to our asset disclosure here. So let's click on that, and you can see another row pops up here where we can enter another property. Once we've entered the second piece of real property, if that was it, then we could stop there. I want to point out, though, that there are other ways of filling out the form. And we mentioned earlier, and I think you heard me say that there were 5 different ways to fill out the form. Manually entering the data, of course, is the first way, and the second way to do it is you can load your prior year data. This was a popular request last year, and we've programmed the system now to accommodate so that it will look at the data that you manually entered in the prior years, and if in the last year's form, it will look at everything that you uploaded, and it will be able to recall that into your current year form. So when we click on this, it gives us this notice here that you must review and edit the imported data to reflect accurate information for the current disclosure period. Just because we have the information entered in a prior year, that doesn't mean that the information is correct this year. For example, you might have sold a particular piece of real property, or the real property might have increased or decreased in value. So you will need to make those changes to reflect the current data. We're going to click OK here, and you can see it's loading, and now it has added to our form 3 rows for 3 other parcels of real property with their addresses here. We'll review those addresses, and if we feel that those are still correct, then we look at the value of the asset, and we look at those numbers. To edit the line, we can delete the information and then enter a new value. Once we're satisfied that all of those entries are correct, then we can move on with the form by clicking Next. Once we've clicked Next, we're still in the Assets section of the form. You can see it's highlighted and bolded in blue here on the bar going across the top of the screen. It's now prompting us to list any intangible assets exceeding $1,000 as of the date that we selected for our net worth. Again, that date was December 31 in this example. There are lots of different types of intangible assets that a Form 6 filer might have to disclose here, and some examples of those are listed here. You can see that there's a little red circle with an I in the middle of it that will provide more information about how to make the particular disclosure. For example, if we hover over the circle for stocks and bonds, a pop-up window comes up here with information about how to make a proper disclosure for stocks and bonds. For stocks and bonds, it says here that we should identify the specific security and the business entity to which it belongs. Do not simply list stocks and bonds. For example, list stock, ABC Construction Company, or bonds, ethical water and gas, and then use the value at the closing price on the reporting date. And again, for us, that would be December 31. There are lots of other examples here provided on this page to make the proper disclosure, and you should review those at your leisure. But then we're going to click yes, because we do have some disclosures here to make for intangible assets exceeding $1,000. We're now on the page where we're going to make these disclosures, and we can see here that we have our list of assets from the previous page's real property disclosures that we just made. But now we're going to add information about our intangible assets. To do that, we're going to click on the green button here, and we're going to add a line item for a particular stock. So the most common things that people would have to disclose as far as intangible assets go would be stocks and mutual funds and bank accounts. To disclose a bank account, you can aggregate all the accounts at the same bank. So for example, if you have 2 checkings and 3 savings accounts at Bank of America, then you can just type bank accounts at Bank of America, and then the value of that. So the value of that would be the aggregate value of all of the accounts. To add another line item, we would click the green button below. To make a disclosure of stocks, like we said earlier, the way to do that would be to disclose that there's a stock for a particular company and then list the company. So here this line item says stock, and then in parentheses it says Home Depot. And then we would list our value of our position in Home Depot as of the date that we were using for our net worth, which in this case is December 31. And so we'll disclose a number here now. Mutual funds are disclosed the same way. For mutual funds, you would just list mutual fund and then the name of the mutual fund. A common mistake that Form 6 filers make on their Form 6 is they tend to want to disclose an IRA, a 401k, or a 529 account, or their private, their personal investment account. And those accounts, they're not assets that are supposed to be disclosed. And the reason for that is you cannot sell an IRA, you cannot sell a 401k, you cannot sell your Charles Schwab account or your Fidelity account. You can sell the things that are inside of those accounts. The securities inside of an IRA or a 401k or your Charles Schwab account or your Fidelity account, those are the things that need to be disclosed if they exceed $1,000. So on your Form 6, you will never disclose the IRA, the 401k, or your personal investment account. But you want to look inside to make sure that your positions inside of those accounts, if they're over 1,000, you would individually list them on the form. Now, for some of you, you might have a lot of positions in your investment accounts, and that's okay, and we make it easy to disclose those. The way to do that, for a lot of you in your investment account, there's a feature usually in your investment account to export the data from your account into a spreadsheet. And usually what happens in that instance is you're given a few columns, but particularly the name of the securities that you're invested in, and then the value of your positions as of the date that you're exporting the data. You can take those 2 columns and use them to make a very easy upload. And the way you would do that is making use of these buttons here right above the chart for the listing your assets. And these buttons here, import from CSV, CSV file template, and how to. How to is a link to a video on exactly how to do this with a little bit more detail than I'm going to show you here now. And then CSV template, when you click on this, it will give you a spreadsheet template that will allow you to enter the data. And then once you have that data imported and entered and saved, you can import that spreadsheet. So we're going to show you how to do that now. When we click on CSV file template, you can see that we've downloaded the form. When I click on the downloads for my for my in my browser, I'm able to see that I downloaded a Form 6 assets template file. So I'm going to click on that. When I click on that, it takes me to this spreadsheet that I've just downloaded. I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see it. And you can see that there are two columns in this spreadsheet. There's a column for description of asset and value of asset. So we can either manually enter or we can copy and paste into this, but what you want to do is you want to have a column with your descriptions of your assets. So for example, you could say something like Microsoft stock, and then the value of the asset. And then you might have and then the value of the asset. This is the name of a mutual fund, and then the value of that asset. Once you have all those data entered properly, then you can click Save on the spreadsheet, and then you can upload it. So now that we've saved the spreadsheet, we can exit out of it and go back to our browser. While we're in our browser, we can now click Import from CSV. When we do this, we'll be prompted with this screen here, which has a square, a rectangle rather, that allows us to drag and drop our CSV file with our saved information in it. We can drag and drop that over here now. When we drag and drop it, it shows us the file, that the file has been 100% uploaded, and now we're prompted with a question. What would you like to do with the data? Would you like to add it to the assets or replace the assets? If you use replace the assets, it will delete the list that you've already entered and replace it with what's in the spreadsheet. We just want to append the list that we already have with this new information coming from the spreadsheet. So we're just going to click Add to My Assets, and then we're going to click Preview. When we do that, we can see that it's come up with the three things that we data entered: Microsoft stock, 123 Real Property Road, and the Fidelity 500 Mutual Fund, and the values that we entered. We like that this was an accurate import of the data, so we're going to click Submit. When we click Submit and we scroll down, we can see that our list of assets is here, including the Microsoft stock, the 123 Real Property Road, and the Fidelity 500 Mutual Fund that came from our CSV file. So we were able to properly import the information. And now we might be satisfied at this point that we've entered all the information. That we left off a city name on the Real Property Road, so we'll add the city name here. And now that we're satisfied that our asset disclosure is complete, then we can click Next to move on to the next section of the form. When we click Next, out of the Assets section of the Form 6, we're now in the Liabilities section. You can see here we're being prompted to disclose, as of the date of our net worth, whether or not we have any personal liabilities in excess of $1,000. And we have two red links here that we can hover over to get additional information. This gives us information when we hover over liabilities to disclose. It tells us that we are to report on our Form 6 all liabilities valued in excess of $1,000 on the reporting date, which again, for the purposes of this video, we're using December 31 from our net worth date. However, when we hover over liabilities not required, we can see here that there's a list of liabilities that are not required to be disclosed, and those include indebtedness on a credit card or retail installment account, taxes owed that have not yet been reduced to a judgment, indebtedness on a life insurance policy, or contingent liabilities. Contingent liabilities are those debts which are not yet, the filer is not yet the primary they don't primarily owe yet. So, for example, if somebody was the guarantor on a loan for their child, the child is principally responsible for the liability, and the public officer would only be liable once the child defaulted on the loan. But once the child does default, that loan is, the public officer's indebtedness on that loan is no longer contingent; it's actual, and at that point they would disclose the liability once their child defaulted. But as long as their child is still making payments and hasn't defaulted on the loan, it's a contingent liability, and it does not need to be disclosed on the form. As with every type of disclosure that might be made on a Form 6, if you have questions about what is or isn't a contingent liability, you can always call the Commission on Ethics and ask to speak with the attorney of the day. And the attorney of the day would be happy to advise you on how to make a proper disclosure on Form 6. For this form, we're going to click yes that we do have liabilities to disclose, so we can look at that section of the form. We can see here that there are 3 columns for disclosure here. The name of the creditor will need to be disclosed, the address of the creditor, and then the amount of the liability. And when we hover over the red link here for amount of the liability, we see that what the form is looking for is the face amount of the debt. You can see here that there are other ways to disclose this information. On the top left corner of the chart here, we can see that we can load prior year data by clicking this button, as we did before. You can also see that we can import from the CSV, and we can download a CSV template that will have 3 columns in it for the 3 columns that are necessary for the liability section. And again, there's a video here for how to do that. But we're going to fill this in manually here. Most common disclosures that get made in the liability section are mortgages, student loans, car payments. So we'll put one of those here now. So let's say that the creditor for our car payment is the FSU Credit Union. And the address for that entity is FSU Credit Union Way in Tallahassee. And let's say that the amount that is owed on that is $12,000. If we had additional lines, additional liabilities, we can click the green button at the bottom right corner of the chart to add a row. And if we add too many rows, we can always click the red trash can to remove those rows. Once we're satisfied that we have all of the liabilities listed here, then we can move to the next screen of the form, which on the next screen here we will be disclosing joint and several liabilities that have not yet been reported. So let's see here. Joint and several liabilities not reported is the next part here. And when we hover over the definition of a joint and several liability, it informs us that if your portion of a debt for any joint and several liability exceeds $1,000, you should have previously reported it. That means on the chart that we just moved from the screen before. This question concerns whether, after removing your individual portion of debt, there is any remaining balance of the joint and several liability. What this is referring to is, let's say you're a co-defendant on a lawsuit, there's a judgment's been issued, and you and 4 co-defendants were found jointly and severally liable for a judgment of $100,000. Now, at the end, once the plaintiff has collected and you and the other plaintiffs begin to settle up amongst each other, your portion of that would be $20,000. There's 5 co-defendants and a $100,000 liability. So your portion of it would be $20,000. So you would put that on the first screen. But what about the other $80,000? As a joint and several, as a defendant on a joint and several liability, you are potentially liable for the other $80,000 from the plaintiff. The plaintiff can seek, can collect from any one defendant. And so that other $80,000 would get reported here if you had any joint and several liabilities not previously reported. So if you click yes, you can see that this is where a joint and several liability would be disclosed. And again, you would put the address of your creditor. And then the amount, in this example, $80,000. Once you've disclosed all your joint and several liabilities, then you can move to the next portion of the form. The next portion of the form is to disclose primary sources of income. To this point, we've been using as the date to measure our disclosures as the date that we disclosed our net worth. So we've been using a snapshot of our assets and liabilities and net worth as of a particular date. For the income sections of the form, what we will be disclosing is income that we received in the tax year for which the form is due. So in this example, we're filling out a 2023 Form 6, which is due July 1 of 2024. So because we're disclosing the 2023 calendar year, we will be disclosing income earned during the 2023 tax year. So it asks us here, do we have any primary sources of income that need to be reported? And again, these are any income sources providing you with more than $1,000 of income during the reporting period. Again, the reporting period is the tax year, which when we highlight over the link, it tells us that. And then when we highlight over primary sources of income, it lets us know that this would be compensation for services, gross income from a business, gains from property dealings or interest, rent, dividends, pensions, etc. Basically, it's going to be anything that would be considered to be gross income to you that you personally received and gross income that you were entitled to in the tax year. So if you have gross income to report, you would click yes here. And now we're in the section of the form. You can see here that there are examples of different sources of income, such as the sale of property. And we can hover over the information circle here to get more information about how to make that disclosure. Or information about joint income or income from dividends. Below that, you can see that you are allowed to upload, instead of manually filling this out, the income section, instead of manually filling out the income section, you can upload a copy of your 2023 federal income tax return. If you do that, you'll need to attach to it all W-2s, schedules, and attachments. But you can scan and upload that instead of filling out the income section manually. This also applies to the secondary sources of income. You won't have to fill out that section of the form either if you upload your tax return. If you do upload your tax return, the page here lets us know that we should redact, we the filer, should redact our social security number from each page, our account numbers, our PIN number, any other taxpayer identification numbers that might appear on the forms or the schedules. We should redact those ourselves before scanning or before uploading the documents. If you're going to upload a tax return, you would check this box right here, and then it will prompt us to upload that at the end when we get to the upload section. However, we're going to uncheck that, and we're going to manually fill this out right now. Actually, we'll check it. We will check it, and we will upload a tax return. We've checked the box to upload a tax return, but I just want to go over what this chart says. This chart, if you're going to manually fill this out, this would be the name of your sources of income over $1,000, the address of each source of income, and then the amount of income received. For the amount, what we're looking for is the amount of gross income received from the source. Most commonly here, you're going to have your employment wages. If you're a Form 1 filer, you might be familiar with Form 1. Where in Form 1, the income section, you were not required to disclose your public salary, but this is a Form 6. And on Form 6, you are required to disclose your public salary if you do receive a public salary. All right, we've checked here that we want to upload a document. I'm eager to do that now, so let's skip ahead by clicking on the Upload section. When we go to the Upload section, it explains to it gives us a notice here about uploading documents and making sure that we have that we're only uploading what we need to upload. And then there's an explanation of how to upload. We browse to the file that we need, and then we can drag and drop it into this rectangle. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to drop a file called Steve's Tax Return. We can see here that that is 100% uploaded now. So that is good. We can see that it is there, and then we can click Upload Document. When we upload the document, we can see that Steve's Tax Return is uploaded here. We're happy to have that there, and now that that's fully uploaded, and we can see there's a green box at the top, a pop-up window that says your documents have been successfully uploaded. Now that we've uploaded the tax return, we can go back to the income section. Again, for those of you who are manually filling out this section of the form, there is for those of you who are manually filling it out, I'm going to uncheck this box just so you can see what's next. If this is the primary sources of income page, but then there's a secondary sources of income page. Secondary sources of income are those major clients and customers of businesses that you own. We have a slide here that does a decent job of explaining that. Form 6 filers are required to disclose their business's major clients and customers in the secondary sources of income section. A client or customer will need to be disclosed if all three conditions are met. You must own a business or more than 5% of a business. You must have received more than $1,000 of gross income from your business last year. And the customer or client must have contributed more than 10% of your business's gross income last year. If all three conditions are met, then that client or customer must be disclosed. Returning to the form here, we can see that this section of the form for secondary sources of income is prompting us to, with some questions to figure out if we have any clients or customers that need to be disclosed. It's asking us, did we own, during the disclosure period, more than 5% total assets or capital stock of a business? So let's click yes for purposes of this. If we own more than 5% of a business, we would click yes. And then it's asking, did you receive more than $1,000 in gross income from that business? Well, for purposes of this, let's say that we did take more than $1,000, did receive more than $1,000 from our business. If we've answered yes to both, and when we click next here, it will prompt us to disclose our secondary sources, our major clients and customers. Now, if there isn't a client or customer that contributed more than 10% of the business's gross income, then for each of these sections, you will put NA. And what are these sections? What's required to be disclosed here would be the name of the business entity, the name of the major source of business income. So the name of the business entity is going to be the name of the business that you own more than 5% of. The name of the major source of business income is going to be the client or customer name. Then the address of the source, that's going to be your client or customer's address. And then the principal business activity of the source, that's going to be the business activity of your client or customer. So again, if you have no client or customer that exceeded more than 10% of your business's gross income, then you'll put NAs in each of these four columns. However, if you do have a client or customer that needs to be disclosed here, then you would disclose it. So for example, if you own a business called Steve's Business LLC, then you would disclose the name of your business. Then your client name, you would put your client name right here. Then the address of your client. and then the principal business activity of your client. Once you've listed all of the clients who satisfy the 3 requirements, that you own more than 5% of a particular business, you receive more than $1,000 from that business, and that they contributed more than 10% of the business's gross income. Once you've supplied all of the clients and customers that meet those conditions, then you can move on to the next section. The next section of the form is interests in specified businesses. What is a specified business? It's a business of an industry type specified in the instructions of the form. When we go to the instructions of the form, we can see that there's a description here of all the interests in specified businesses here. There's a long paragraph here with all different business types. They've taken care to list those on the web page itself in this section. Examples of specified businesses would be if you own a state and federally chartered bank, if you own a small loan company, or an alcohol beverage licensee, a credit union, or an insurance company. If you own one of these business types of anything that's listed on this page, then there are certain disclosures that must be made. So you can see we're being prompted here to answer some questions to determine whether or not we should even go to that section of the form. It's asking if at any point during the disclosure period, which again is last year, 2023, for purposes of this video, did you own, either directly or indirectly, more than 5% total assets or capital stock of any of the business types listed above? So let's say yes. Let's say we owned a restaurant that was a alcohol beverage licensee. At any time in the disclosure period, did you serve as an officer, director, partner, proprietor, or agent of any of the business types? So let's say we owned it, so that would be yes. Well, then we're moving on to the next section where we're going to make that disclosure. So we've clicked next here, and now this section of the form comes up, and it's asking us to add the information concerning our interest of the businesses previously specified. So we can, when we click add, we get this pop-up menu, this pop-up screen, where we will list the name of the business, the address of the business, it's asking us for the position held with the entity. This would be owner in this particular instance. I own more than 5%. You would click yes, and if that was true for you. And then the nature of the ownership interest would be stock. And we can even put a note in here, greater than 5% interest in stock. When we're happy with this disclosure here, then we click Save. And you can see that that business interest appears below. All of that is listed here. If we were not happy with one of the entries, if we saw an error or a typo, we could click Edit here, or we could delete the entry entirely. Again, we can always load prior year data if that's a relevant concern, or we can check this box to upload something at the end of the form. We can also import from a CSV and then download the CSV template, which would have all of the columns necessary to fill this in. When we're done with this section of the form, then we can click Next to move on to the next section of the form. This is the upload section. We've already discussed this part of the form earlier when we discussed income, but this will list all the documents that we have to upload. Additionally, if there were more documents that we needed to upload for a particular section, let's say, for example, we went back to the interest in specified businesses section. If we wanted to upload something in this section of the form, we could click, I have documents to upload here, and then when we went to the upload section, it would prompt us to upload those. When we go back and we uncheck that box and we go back to the upload section, you can see that we are no longer being prompted to upload anything. So make sure if you have documents that you want to upload for a particular section, that section has a check mark in it so that you are prompted to upload documents. Once all your documents are uploaded, then you're going to the next section of the form, which is the certification about your ethics training. You can see here that this section applies only to constitutional or elected municipal officers or to elected officers of independent special districts, including any person appointed to fill a vacancy on an elected special district board, each of whom are required to complete annual ethics training pursuant to Section 112.3142 of the Florida Statutes. When you go to Section 112.3142 of the Florida Statutes, it states that these individuals are required to receive 4 hours of training annually in the calendar year. That training must consist of training on ethics, public records, and open meetings. If you have received the training in the calendar year that's being disclosed, so again, we're filling out a 2023 Form 6. We can see that here up top and top left. We're filling out a 2023 Form 6. So in the 2023 calendar year, it's asking us whether or not we got the ethics training. If we can certify that we did complete the required training, the 4 hours in that year, then we would check the first box. There are certain instances where you're not required to get the ethics training. For example, if you assumed office for the first time after March 31 of the particular calendar year, then those positions are not required to get the ethics training in that particular calendar year. Or if you're filling this out as a candidate and you're not yet a public officer, you're a candidate for these positions, then you're not required to get the ethics training. Only the public officers in those roles are required to get the ethics training. So if that's the case, if you were not required to get the ethics training, then you would click this second box here. Required training is not applicable to the filer of this form. We're going to check the box to certify that we did get the ethics training. And then we're moving on to the last section of the form where we will review our form. Now we're on the review page. The review page is where we can look to make sure that we've properly entered in data for all of the sections of the form. We can scroll down here and double check all the information that we've provided to make sure that everything is up to date and accurate, and all the numbers that we've entered, we can check them one last time to make sure that we have everything here. You can see all of our assets, for example, all the assets that we listed, some liabilities, and then we get to this line right here under joint and several liabilities. Now I went back off camera and I deleted what we had there. And so we had indicated that we had joint and several liabilities not reported above, but because I deleted all the entries, there's no data there. So the system is looking for data because we indicated that we did have joint and several liabilities, but we didn't enter anything. So the system is flagging for us that there's a problem with our form. When we scroll down the rest of the way, we see that the rest of the form, there are no other problems here, and we could verify that all of our information is or isn't correct. When there's a problem like this, we'll skip ahead to the sign and print section of the form. In the sign and print section of the form, because there's a problem on the review page, it won't let us sign or print our Form 6 to submit it. As a result, we need to fix the error on our form in the review page. To do that, we can go to the pink line on our review page of our form and click on it. When we click on it, it takes us back to the page where we're supposed to enter the data. In this case, it's the joint and several liabilities page. Now, you'll recall that we just entered some information in here, but now it's blank because we had deleted that information to show you this feature. So we'll have to enter the information here. When we enter the information, we get the green check mark that everything is validated. we're happy with this information, we can click next, or we can go to the review page now. When we click on the review page, we're back to the review page, and we can scroll down to make sure that there are no errors on our form. And you can see that this line, which was pink, it now has the data that we've just entered in. And we scroll down through the rest of the form, and the rest of the form is ready. So we are ready to go to the next section of the form, which is the sign and print page. We're now on the sign and print page of the Form 6 in the Electronic Financial Disclosure Management System. You can see here that it is prompting us to sign our form. So when we click on this rectangle to click to sign, it comes up with a pop-up window that comes up with the name that we're using here. We can edit this name. Now, for the purposes of this test video, the name that we had entered was Disclosure Filer. But if we weren't happy with that name, or if that name was incorrect, or if we wanted to change it, we could edit that information. And then we can click Accept and Sign. It shows here that my name. It shows here the date of the signature. And then it is showing the option to redo if we wanted to redo the name. Once we have that and we're all happy with the signature portion of this, then we can click File My Disclosure. It's asking us if we're certain we want to file the disclosure. If we file the disclosure, but there are still things that we forgot to add, or after we click this button, we remember something that we forgot to add, at that point you will need to file an amendment. That's Form 6X, and that form's available through the dashboard. But we're confident at this point that we've disclosed everything we need to disclose, so we are sure that we would like to file our disclosure, so we click the blue button here. It tells us that this was a successful filing. We have a pop-up window in the middle of the page saying success. You have e-filed your disclosure. There's also a pop-up on the right side, top right, saying the form was submitted successfully. Now it's asking us, would we like to print a copy of our form? Even before that, it's saying your form will be published on our website and a copy will be made available on your dashboard. Note that confidential filers forms are published only after Chapter 119 redactions are applied by the Commission. So again, if you have submitted a confidentiality request form, which is available in the quick links section of the dashboard, if you've submitted one of those to the Commission will perform the redactions required under the law to your Form 6. So now it's asking, would you like to print a copy of your form for your records now? You can always do this later. There's also a link here to view verification receipt. So we're going to click print the form so that we have a copy of it for our records. When we click the blue print form button, this comes up and it's a copy of our form, and we scroll through and it looks just like all the data that we had entered. And there's a print button here where we can print our form through our printer. Once we've printed our form, then we can click Home to go back to our dashboard. From the dashboard, it's showing that our Form 6 is here, and we can view the form. We can click the green button here to view what we did on the Form 6. We can also view the verification receipt. When we click on that link, you'll be able to print a verification receipt, which you can, if you're a candidate for office for a Form 6 position, and you need documentation that you've filed the Form 6 with us, you can click the View Verification Receipt and print that document, which you can then take to your qualifying officer to show them that you've filled out the form, and it'll provide a link for them that they can use to go and view the form that you submitted. If after you file your Form 6, you realize that there was something that you left off of the form, you can file an amendment to your form. To do that, you would from your dashboard, you would click on the File Amendment link right here in the middle. When you click on that, it will show your filing history. It will show all the forms. It's showing my previous year form, the one that it was loading from when I would click Load Prior Year Form. And then it shows the form I just filed, the 2023 Form 6, which is in a published status. And all the way on the right, there's a link to file the amendment. When you click on that, you will be able to file your amendment for your Form 6X. If you have any questions about that, you can always give us a call. That concludes our video today on Form 6. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen in this video, or how to make a proper disclosure, or if there's something that maybe wasn't covered in this video, if you need any help at all, you can call the staff of the Commission on Ethics at 850-488-7864, or email us at disclosure@leg.state.fl.us, and we'll be able to help you. Thank you for watching this video.